Bondage, I started writing, oh God, my daughter is 16, so probably about 16 years ago. I wrote the first few chapters, and I had to put it down. It was a little heavy, and I was like, yes, well, I'm done with that. Thank you, that was nice. And every so often, I'm going to pick it back up, and it was heavy. And then I realized much later on that God was still giving me the story. I was still living the story, and that's why I couldn't write it yet.
Yeah.
And so I knew from the very beginning, I knew the title, and I knew it was an acronym. No clue what it stood for.
Wow.
I did not get the revelation of the acronym until last year.
Okay.
So bondage stands for betrayal, offense, neglect, disappointment, anger, grief, and emotion.
Wow. I like this book.
Please tell me it's on Amazon.
Right.
So I can buy it.
Yes.
It is.
I got two, one for me and one for my
Right.
I already know.
Man.
And
That's
so
powerful.
when I prayed about that,
Yes.
and you know, I cater a lot to women because
Yes.
I am one, right? But I do believe that this book would set a man free just as good as a woman. But when I prayed about it, and the response that I got was that as a woman, especially, you could find in those categories at least one, but usually in multiple categories where a woman is bound.
Yes.
Usually from birth, but you know, relationships, parents, just whatever, you can find something that is holding her in one or more of those categories.
That's good.
And those things, they attach to us, and we carry them. And we birth our babies. I say all the time, I birthed my babies through a bruised birth canal.
Wow.
And so now I'm stuck with doing the work to try to redeem that. Thank God that now I can see it. But I was 38 before I realized that I was in an identity crisis. I had no clue that all of these years I had been living in this identity crisis. I had been wearing this mask.
Yeah.
And so when I realized what it stood for, it was like, whoa. And you know, there was this burden of making sure that my truth came across the best way that I could. The thing about truth, though, is when you shine a light on places that have been dark. You know, we talk about, you hear people when you're little, you turn on a light, right? What happens when you turn on a light and there's roaches there?
They scatter.
So, you know, right now, I understand that I'm not going to be everybody's favorite person now.
That's right.
But the goal of this book was not to be anybody's favorite person. It was not to make money. That's why the book it's $12 on Amazon. It's $10 if you get it from me. The ebook is only $5.99 because it's not about money for me. I wrote this book because God gave me the gift of transparency.
Yes.
It is a gift that I have both loved and hated all of my life.
Yes.
And, you know, I've been writing songs and performing poetry, and I get close to it and I back away. But there are so many people who don't have my voice.
Yeah.
There are, so, you know, people, they tell me that I'm strong, and I don't see it as a strength. It's like a blessing and a curse. I don't want to tell y'all all my business.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you know how hard that is to open up my wounds for the world to judge? 'Cause let's be clear.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go. Oh, yeah.
Let's be
come on now.
clear that that's how this is going to go.
Yes.
So
Let's keep it
these
real.
are my wounds. These are the deepest caveats of my heart that I have to open up, but I have to open them up because I understand that now this is my purpose. And so I used to get so frustrated because, I have a degree in accounting. I'm halfway to a master's. I went to school. I made my mistakes or whatever, but I did the things that I was supposed to do. How do I keep ending up in these penny ante jobs making no money? I can't take care of my children. I can't pay my bills. Lord, I don't understand. I'm the choir director. I'm the praise team director. I'm over the youth department. I'm doing all of this stuff in the vineyard, but I can't pay my bills. I got all this. I don't understand. This is foolishness to me, and I'm angry, right? why can I not get a job to sustain me? Because the job is not my purpose.
Yes,
That's right.
It was
it.
not the
That's
place
it.
where I was supposed to
be.
be. So there was no comfort for me there. There was no happiness for me there. Because until you get where I told you to be,
Yeah,
Come on now.
that's it. That's it.
There she
Come
go
on now.
again.
Yes, that's it.
why would I make it comfortable for
Yeah,
you?
of
Right.
course. Because I never ordained you to be there.
Yeah.
So writing this book
That's good.
has shown me me.
That's wonderful.
Writing this book has shown me, even in places in where, let me explain. Picking up a mirror and looking at yourself and being extremely honest about what you see.
Yep.
Being accountable and responsible for what you see. And I'm not talking about the pretty things. That is the hardest place to
Yes.
be in.
Yes.
And writing this book was my mirror. So in the places where I wanted to continue to blame other people, I had to stop and say, "No, boo-boo, but
Yeah.
you know, you know, because now when I was a baby, now those don't fall on my shoulders.
Right. That's right.
Right. But see, at a certain point, you become accountable for yourself.
That's right.
The Bible says when I was a child, but
Oh,
when
as
I
a
became a
child.
man,
Yep.
Put away
I had to
that.
put
Childish
away
things.
childish
That's right.
things.
Come on.
So, but when I grew up, I was still mad, and it had to become everybody. It was my ex-husband, father, but it was never his responsibility to make me happy. So how could I be
That's
mad
right.
at him when he did not live up to my standard of happiness? That was my fault. So when I wrote it out, I would go back and read what I wrote and go, "Woo." Oh, I'm just gonna put this down. I don't want to see that. It's disrespectful. And what I realized was that God was giving me a blueprint, not for me. The book is not for me. And as much as it is about me, it is not. But it is about the millions of
That's
people.
so
That's it.
humbling. That's so
The
humbling.
millions of people who don't have the strength to write their story.
Yeah. That's
But
it.
who can look at mine and find pieces of their own. And like I said earlier, whatever I have to do to help you get out, baby girl, let's go. I will drag you out. I will smoke you out. I will burn you out. I will pull you out. I will crawl you out. I will pick you up on my back and walk you out because we have to come out. I firmly believe that until we as Black women get into our rightful roles, our communities will continue to
That's
fail.
right.
Because, see, our men have nothing to lead.
Come on.
And our children have no one to teach them.
Right.
Because we're birthing them through bruised
Yes.
canals. Because we're bound by betrayal, offense, neglect, disappointment, anger, grief, and emotion.
All right.
And we're strapped. The chains. We're just walking around with them. It's like zombies.
Yes.
But you don't know you a zombie. I wore the mask. And so what I did was I wrote my pain first. When I realized that I had been living in the prison of my pain. You don't know this stuff when you're in it. You don't. You think you're okay. I thought I was okay. Listen, what I did, Jenny, I'm 40 million viewers. Yes, I won. Yes. That girl can sing. She sure can. Okay. Right? And you think you're okay. Oh, I made babies. Oh, I made beautiful babies. I'm good. Okay. Until my baby tried to die on me. Well, what's wrong with my baby? Until I continued to have all of these experiences that didn't make sense to me. Until I realized that I didn't even know who Shaquinia was.
Come on now.
And you will know this. Everybody calls me something different. Queen, Shaq, Queenie. Nobody says Shaquinia because they can barely pronounce it. You know, Sister Nelson, Sister Witherspoon. I have a different name depending on what era you met me. I didn't even know who I was. So this is book 1 of 2. Book 1 is the revealing of the pain. It is the revealing of those things that had me bound. Book 2 is the release.
All right.
See, there was more. You know, a couple of my friends who were in the focus group, and they read a few chapters, and they're going, Queen, it's more. Wait, I can't. Hold on, because I don't. You sure? Mm-hmm. But it's a process, and that's why we talked about being okay with the process.
Yeah.
Even after you read all of this, when you get to the top of book 2, I went through more mess. I did more mess. I made more mistakes, and I have to own that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have to own that before my children because I need them to understand that your life is going to be full of mistakes.
Yes.
But your mistakes don't
That's
define
it.
you.
That's it.
What they do is
They
push you
refine
toward
you.
your purpose. They refine.
They refine you, not define you. Yes.
And when you understand that the pruning process is necessary, we take the brown leaves off the flower in order for the flower to grow. So, this book has just been powerful for me. And when I recognize that, my prayer is that every hand that touches it, every person that dares to turn the page can find healing in the pages because we all have a story.
Yeah.
The pieces are different and the numbers add up differently and it don't always look the same. But the way to the end is the same. I used to beat myself up because it took me so long to write this story. I thought it reflected some deficiency in me. I now understand that God was still giving me the words. I was still learning from my wilderness. He was still pruning me, molding me, plucking me, teaching me. Everything happens in His time, and I'm so grateful that He knew what I didn't. It's not lost on me that this book will be released at the height of the Me Too movement, a time where women have shown strength, bravery, and the determination to no longer be called victims, a time where we stand united in freedom from the bondage of secrecy and shame, a time where our power comes not from some contrived notion of who the world says we need to be, but from truth, honor, and sheer will. It is sad to say that in 2018, we live in a country plagued by stories of domestic abuse, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and the countless brutal deaths of women and children. It is sad that we have to argue about these issues and fight for their importance in the world. It is sad that the very leaders sworn to protect us sit in offices of power and perpetuate the very evil they should be saving us from. It is sad, but it is no longer surprising. Well, square up. Because no longer will we sit idly by, clothed in fear, quietly watching while you rape and murder our girls. No longer will we wear what you've done to us as badges of dishonor or shame. We are ripping off bandages, exposing your dirt, letting the trails of blood lead directly to your doorsteps, into your homes and underneath your skins. No longer will we cover our scars with smiles that don't reach our eyes, tears that soak into our pillowcases, or lies we no longer believe.
That
That was real powerful.
Love
Yes.
it.
Yes,
Love
yes.
it.
The thing that hurts me most, especially when we're talking about bodies of believers, when you're dealing with somebody that is in the fire,
Come on.
when you're dealing with somebody in the prison of their pain, be very careful about throwing Bibles
Yes.
and throwing
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Come
Yes.
on. Come on.
because
And
they
judgment.
cannot
Yes.
That's right.
receive it
Yes.
in
That's right.
the prison of
That's
their
right.
pain.
That's right.
So be very careful how you do that.
That's right.
I was born and bred in church. My grandmother was an evangelist. My grandfather was the pastor. They founded the church that still sits at 1525 Townsend on the east side of Detroit. All I know is church. But in the prison of my pain, I couldn't hear that. After some of the things that happened to me, and listen, when the things happened to my children, that's when I was done with all of that.
I know that's
You
right.
keep your scripture.
That's right.
Me and God, we stopped talking for
Right.
about, well, I stopped talking to him about 5 years. He was still there, but I didn't want to hear nothing he had to say.
Right.
And it
Wow.
wasn't until Pastor Janetta Hatcher, I'll never forget, from Third New Hope. And I had gotten mad, and I was in my little mess, and I went to go visit. And I was just angry, and people kept telling me I couldn't question God. Why can't I question him?
Yes,
Why
you
can't
can.
I ask
He
him?
is
Why?
big enough to
And when
handle
she
it.
looked at me and told
Where they
me,
got that
she
from?
said, oh, but you can question him.
Yes, you can.
And that was a breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
Because I had sat in a place of darkness for 5 years. I didn't want to talk to God. I didn't want to hear his name. People were saying, baby, you pray. I said, no, you pray. You pray. I ain't got no kick it for God. I'm so glad you didn't strike. Thank you, Lord, because, I'm so glad you didn't strike me down.
Yes.
But understand that when people are in a certain place, you have to handle them with care.
Yes, you do.
And I just wanted to say that. And I'm not saying that you don't speak God to them. I'm not. But sometimes you have to be the representation.
That's
sometimes
right.
you have to lay in the gap.
Yes.
Sometimes you just have to intercede.
Yes.
Sometimes you just have to live before them. Sometimes you have to not open your mouth at all and just go to God for them because they're not in a position to receive it. And you do more damage than you do good. And I'm done.